People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
Hello, welcome to Cynic Critique, where we get real with cult films. I'm your host Thomas, and I'm here with my brother and my co-host, my bro-host, Brian. Hello. This week we're resurrecting a classic for its 30th anniversary as we discuss the 1994's The Crow and the comic book it's based on, which is celebrating its 35th anniversary.
Yep, maybe should have had that introduce the comic first, thinking about it would have been the one we're discussing first. The comic was originally printed in 1989. But we're discussing the version we've read, which is from 2011. It's the special edition. Still written and drawn by James Abar, but there's, I think, 30 extra pages.
Yeah, 30 extra pages.
Which he's had to recreate because some of the originals were lost or sold. So the synopsis for the comic is, after the murder of his fiancée by a vicious street gang, a man rises from the grave to wreak bloody vengeance upon those who wronged him. And like I said, it's written and drawn by James Abar. So he's the creator of The Crow. And I'll let you go into it from there, I guess, because I know this is one of your all-time favourites.
It is one of my all-time favourites. If there's people who are familiar with the movie, then there are some differences in names, but we won't really have to. Would you rather go into that when we discuss the movie?
Yeah, we'll do the differences upon the film.
Yeah, in this he hunts down the people that wronged him, like you said, which is T-Bird, Fun Boy, Tintin, Tom Tom. That's pretty much the main crew of these.
Yeah.
But the comic book has the Skull Cowboy.
Yes.
Who's an interesting...
and maybe 2-3 pages, and only one of them I think you see him in full.
Yeah. He's the one that keeps him on his mission. The Crow itself is the guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love this book. It's a tragic story.
And it comes from tragedy.
Yeah. That's the
for those that don't know.
The origins of the comic book are a tragic story in itself. And you can really tell when you read it.
Yeah.
Everything Obar went through. It's really quite a sad read, really.
I think the accident with his girlfriend at the time is actually in the special edition in his write-up at the beginning somewhere.
Yeah, he does talk about that. I remember reading it. I didn't read it again because
he goes into it on the Blu-ray that we've got. There's a 4K edition out now, so there's probably more bonus features.
Yeah.
But there's an interview with James Abar on there, and he goes into his backstory about how he was influenced to write The Crow.
Yeah.
Because it was quite cathartic for him, it seems, and something very close to him.
Yeah. I love everything about it. The artwork is amazing. It's all black and white, and you get some really nice detailed images when it's more
like flashback.
Yeah, they're more detailed in memories.
Well, we're not sure. I was going to say, we're not sure if it's actually a flashback telling or he's like reliving the memory. Cause I think the comic works quite well with its ambiguous reading, like how it can be interpreted.
It's quite a dreamy sort of world, I guess.
And I think those flashback and memory scenes really add to that.
Yeah.
Because they're more vivid and real looking in their style than the actual main events of the revenge story.
Yeah, they're very kind of sketchy, fast-paced looking sort of...
Yeah, quite kinetic.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for, kinetic. Yeah, they're all ultra-violent and so on.
Yeah.
So it adds to this sort of fantasy thing of him playing out his revenge.
Yeah, because some people also believe this is while he was in hospital.
Yeah.
Because this is where we do have to discuss a little bit the difference in the comic to the film before we discuss the film.
Yeah.
Because here he's not so much in a coma, but he's still alive from the accident that seems to lead to his death, if it does at all.
I wouldn't say it was an accident.
You know, good point. I just don't want to give away what happens to him in the comic.
No.
Because of how different it is to the film.
Right.
I'd much prefer people to, if they've seen the film, which the chances I have, I'd like them to go read the comic.
Right.
But he survives the incident. Incident, that's a better word.
Yeah.
And he's in hospital for 30 hours, almost comatose or something. And one reading is that all the revenge story is him dreaming while he's still in the hospital. And I guess there's also a version you can read it where he goes to the hospital, dies, and does come back.
Yeah.
So it's...
Then there's purgatory theory.
Yeah, because some of the opening pages are with the skull cowboy on a train, and then towards the end, the skull cowboy and the train reappear.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's having to relive this cycle of vengeance in purgatory, I guess.
Yeah. And then there is the other theory of him surviving hospital and then going out for revenge.
Yeah.
Well, after he's healed up.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel with the comic, they're all plausible theories.
Yeah.
And it's choose your best, I guess.
Yeah. I kind of go with purgatory. I don't know.
The artwork's really nice, actually, because while we're talking, we haven't actually got the image for the episode together yet. It would be maybe nice to get a couple comic book images.
I was going to get comic book images, but
yeah.
Because it's the overall episode, if you ask me.
Right. Okay, so none of the film will be there.
No.
Right.
No, well,
none of the cult classic film, The Crow, also celebrating their anniversary this year, will be there.
Yeah. No, that'll be there.
But it's a gorgeous comic, and you can really feel the sadness a lot more in the comic, I think, than the film.
Yeah.
But I guess when the writer and artist is the same person for the comic, it really gets to be his full vision and words on a page.
Yeah.
He mentions with how it was originally printed, though, that he had to cut pages to get the story to work, and that's why there was some pages missing that the special edition collects. And I don't know how true to his vision it would be now, because obviously his artwork's improved when he's had to recreate some of them pages. It's a little obvious, I think, which are the new editions without having to look it up. But I have not looked into it, so I could be wrong. Is there any more you want to say about the comic? Would it be one of your... I don't know. This is like one of your top 10 graphic novels of all time, isn't it?
In my top 4.
Right. Top 4 means it's 4th.
No, I have 4 equal...
Number 1.
Deeply loved comic books, yeah.
Right.
I'll have them all for different reasons.
But I weren't wrong when I said they were in your top 10.
I don't really know what my top 10 are. I just know my top 4.
Right, okay. Which are this? The Watchmen?
Watchmen, yeah.
Sin City?
Yeah.
And Midnight Nation.
Yeah, I'm surprised you know.
I know them well.
You haven't read one of them.
Somebody won't lend it me.
I have. You had it for a while.
I've not had it in my hands at all.
You had it for quite a while.
Lies.
I had to get it back from you.
That's how good it was.
You refused to read it.
Yeah, I believe you had to get it out of my cold, dead hands.
Oh, have you been resurrected for this episode?
Surprise. I'm here for vengeance.
You're here to discuss The Crow.
That's the penance. I have to discuss this thing I think is just okay.
Okay.
No, they're actually both great for their own ways. If there's anything more you want to say about the comic.
I just want to find that I do really like the poems that are added. I think they added an extra layer to it as well. And they help tell the story of how he's feeling at the time and what the actual narrative of it is as well.
Yeah.
Like I said, genuinely, it is just an amazingly put together piece. At least the special edition is that I've read. It's the only version I have.
I think the original 4 or 5 issue run would be quite similar. I don't know how much more them missing pages would change it.
No.
I won't know without finding it to read or learning which pages are missing from the original run and just rereading that and not including them in my read.
Yeah. I was supposed to look up which were the added pages and story elements and things like that. Yeah. For some reason didn't. I ended up looking some other stuff up that was probably not as relevant.
Oh, well. Are you ready to discuss the film?
We can discuss the film.
Because we can maybe flip back to the comic, I guess, as we need to discuss differences. Or is there more you want to add to the comic?
I can discuss one thing about the comic. It was put out for the movie. They did like a special edition in 94 and they featured a soundtrack that's put together with John Burgin. And he's a friend of James O'Barr.
Right.
But he has a band called Trust Obey. I don't really know the band. He did a whole album influenced from The Crow. It's pretty much the comic book soundtrack.
Oh, right. Well,
and that was put out as a special.
As a promotional piece.
Yeah. And then they re-released it a few years later and with a couple alternate tracks.
Right.
And for some reason, a couple alternate tracks took away the previous main track.
Okay.
But yeah.
Well,
that's called Fear and Bullets.
What the album is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was worth mentioning here because that to me is more to the comic book as it's part of O'Barr.
There is a 98 edition remastered from 2018.
Right.
It's on Spotify.
Right.
So I don't know if that'll be on YouTube and other places, but you can look it up. I just typed Fear and Bullets and it came up pretty much straight away in Trust Obey.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe link that in the episode's description.
Yeah, that is supposed to be like the soundtrack.
Because
comic.
I mean, there's some great names here because they actually reference the comic.
Yeah. Waiter and Bullets is the title of the film.
Yeah. But we've got Lead Poisoning,
Yeah.
which is a reference to a line in the comic.
Yeah. I was supposed to give it a listen, but we did all the research in one day, I think.
The 94 edition is also on Spotify.
Right.
But if I'd have known about this when I was reading the comic,
You'd have put it on.
yes, because I love finding like mood pieces to read to.
Yeah, but you don't like them with vocals.
Oh, with these songs?
Yeah. I think
Right,
so.
okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, then maybe I wouldn't have.
But yeah, I'm supposed to listen to it, but I haven't. And somehow I only found out about that while doing research for this.
Yeah.
And I was a bit upset.
Because the comic is actually loosely inspired by music, I guess.
Yeah.
He was listening to bands like The Cure, can't think of any now off the top of my head, Iggy Pop.
Well, Iggy Pop is an
Iggy-
influence on the Crow's body.
Yeah, the torso, the muscular torso. But his attitude was actually an influence for Fun Boy.
Yeah.
Not a great image to have.
No.
So, you want to intro the movie now?
Yeah, I can intro the movie.
Okay. Not that I'm eager to get to it.
You seem to be.
I just find a comic book very hard to sell in words without being able to show people the images. But with a movie, I can discuss that. I've been doing it all my life.
Right. So The Crow, 1994.
You're all going to die.
Directed by Alex Proyas. Written by David J. Schwau and John Shirley. It stars Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, Michael Wincott as Top Dollar, Ernie Hudson, Sergeant Albrecht, David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, Michael Massey as Funboy, Angel David as Skank, Lawrence Mason as Tintin, Tony Todd as Grange, Rochelle Davis as Sarah Moore, Sophia Shenas as Shelley Webster, Bai Ling as Micah, Anna Thompson as Darla Moore, Joe Polito as Gideon. Synopsis. The night before his wedding, musician Eric Draven and his fiancée are brutally murdered by members of a violent gang. On the anniversary of their death, Eric rises from the grave and assumes the mantle of the Crow. Its budget was $23 million, and its gross was $50,812,516.
Yeah.
Waiting for that.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do it after I said the title.
Its budget and gross seems to be questionable.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the producers on the film said we're trying to make a $30 million movie for $18 million.
Yeah.
So that's obviously $5 million less than what is slated there as budget.
When was that set though?
During the making.
During the making.
Yes.
And they had production by Paramount was shut down after Brandon
true.
was killed.
Yes.
And then
And picked up by Miramax
yeah, and they had to fund it. And,
to do the special effects.
yeah.
Because they did the whole special effects thing.
Yeah.
But its gross also seems to be contended as well.
Yeah.
Because I think Wikipedia has its gross listed as 90 million. But I don't know if that's including like ticket resale, not resales, when the film gets reshown again and for anniversary screens and so on.
Yeah.
Do you want to go into the differences between this and the comic now? Or do you want to talk what you actually like about the film?
Film is just as stylistic as the comic book itself.
Yeah.
I think it has a different sort of
Style?
yeah, but it is very monochromatic in its palette.
Yeah.
That was something that they did in post.
They used a filter,
Yeah.
and then I think in post they coloured certain things blue to wash colour out, so they weren't allowed any blue in the production design and so on.
Yeah, we're going to say they weren't like blue.
But you get a lot of dark greys and reds actually within the colour palette of the film. Then also, before Proyas came into directing, the studio wanted to do it as a musical with Michael Jackson.
Yeah. I'm right, James Abel laughed at
Yeah.
I thought it was a joke.
Yeah, which it still sounds like a joke. And Proyas wanted to do this as a black and white film
Yeah.
and then use high contrast colour for the flashback.
Yeah.
And the studio said no. So I guess the monochromatic idea is as close to
Yeah.
he could get away with for doing black and white.
Brandon Lee seemed really enthusiastic about the black and white version in
Yeah.
interviews with
Watched. Also, Brandon Lee weren't the first choice for this role. River Phoenix and Christian Slater were asked and turned it down.
Yeah.
And James Abar wanted Johnny Depp and
Yeah.
couldn't see Brandon Lee as the Crow because the only film he'd seen him in is Showdown in Little Tokyo.
Yeah.
And he thought it was going to be a kung fu movie then because of that film.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. And Obar actually saw Brandon Lee in the makeup on set actually saying some lines of dialogue from the comic and was just like, yeah, that's it, kind of thing.
Yeah. I do think Brandon Lee was a great choice for this. It's a shame really what happened with him during...
Yeah, and I don't know how much they had to actually pick up without him.
No.
Like, it says what shots he's not there for.
Yeah.
You can find that. I'm not going to get into it because it's all over the internet if you really want to look that up.
Yeah.
But it does make me wonder how much the film changed due to that incident.
Yeah. I know Skull Cowboy was taken out before
Yeah.
that.
But you can actually see only a brief shot or two of him.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he's outside the church.
Yeah.
As much as I like this film, one thing I don't particularly like is I think it strips the ambiguity away
Yeah.
majorly, which is something I really like the comic for having.
Yeah.
I do appreciate a lot of the cast, and the style just works.
Yeah.
What's great is how they've managed to do this on such a budget, because they've had to build some great looking sets, and I think that just adds to the style of this.
Yeah.
Also, there's a car chase in this that they couldn't have afforded through budget, so they do it with miniature work. So it's quite obvious when you know, but otherwise you just think, what a cool style this movie's got, I think, and you don't really think, you wouldn't assume they were miniatures, which is pretty impressive. I also like, because it goes into the miniature work, that T-Bird's character has a 73 Ford Thunderbird.
Yeah.
So it's as if like his name comes from that car,
Yeah.
his nickname,
That is a good one.
which I thought was pretty cool.
T-Bird is David Patrick Kelly.
Yeah.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
One of Brandon Lee's favourite films is The Warriors, so he's really happy to have such a
Yeah.
great
Character
character
actor.
actor on set.
But he's done some amazing stuff himself. In fact, I think we've discussed him a couple of times on the podcast.
Yeah, we have.
We've discussed The Warriors, and I cannot think for the life of me what other films we've covered with him in. He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Michael Wincott, I forgot what he's famous for now, other than his voice. He was the director in Nope the other year from Jordan Peele, but I think he's famous for voicing a video game character.
I don't know.
And I can't think who now. That's going to bug me. But there's some odd choices made in this. Like, they change... Do you want to go into them, actually?
Well, the Top Dollar, for a start, he's the leader of the gang in this, and they seem much more than a gang of...
They actually seem like an organised crime syndicate almost in this.
Yeah.
Because it's like he organises the fires in Detroit every mischievous night and stuff.
And he has a sister, Micah, played by Lynn.
Yeah.
And she's not in the comic, and they have a strange relationship.
Yep.
I'm sure they're into like voodoo as well, or some weird magic-y seeming thing, which I think just helps come into play with the narrative of the film,
I guess.
just to give him that upper hand over Eric.
Yeah.
But in the comic book, it's T-Bird who's the leader of the gang. Then there's the character Sarah, whose name in the comic book is Sherry. I assume they changed that due to the similarity of Shelley and Sherry.
Yeah, because I'm mixing them up and saying Shirley. No joke. All day before recording, when I've been discussing it with him off air, I've said, which one's Shirley? And he's got like, neither of them.
The character Tintin in this, he's the one who sells stuff to the pawn shop as well.
Yeah.
Or gives it to the pawn shop.
Nothing to do with solving crimes and fighting Nazis.
No.
Or having a ginger quiff and a dog named Snowy.
No, different Tintin.
Yes, unfortunately.
But yeah, in the comic book, that is T-Bird himself who does that. The character Tom Tom's not in there. He seems to be replaced by Skank and possibly some other characters as well. Sergeant Albrecht, played by Ernie Hudson, he's merged with Captain Hook. Not to be mistaken with Peter Pan's Captain Hook. Yeah. I mean, the Captain Hook of the police department.
Yeah. The very same.
Because Captain Hook in the comic book, he's the one that investigated the wrongdoings to Eric and Shelley. As in this, it's Sergeant Albrecht, and he's somehow demoted to...
He was a B cop, didn't he?
Yeah.
In uniform, again.
Yeah. And the beat cop is Sergeant Albrecht in the...
Yeah.
Well, Officer Albrecht, sorry. In the...
Yeah.
Few odd different here and there. And then the one you're probably thinking of, the biggest one, is the fact that it's Shelley in this who's in a coma state.
Yeah.
And not Eric. And
Albrecht sat with her for 30 hours.
Yeah. Well, the thing for me with that is in the comic book, you didn't want to talk about the thing though in the comic book, how it's kind of different.
Not completely. I mean, you can say, I guess, that it was at the roadside in the comic.
I was going to say about Eric.
Oh, what?
He watches.
Oh, yeah. You say that.
Yeah, watches the whole thing in the comic book, and that's one of the reasons why it's such a sort of tragic event for him. But in the film, he's thrown out a window.
Yeah.
And doesn't really see.
No. I think that adds to the tragedy in the actual heart of it in the comic.
Yeah.
Anyway, of that actual need for revenge, I think, as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the other thing is he's in a band in the film as well.
Yeah, which doesn't seem to be a thing in the comic.
You know, they did it to help with the music aspect and how the
a shredding scene.
Yeah.
No, a connection to like lyric, I guess. And
in the film he's more of a lyricist.
Yeah.
Because the famous line, "It doesn't rain all the time."
It's supposed to be in a song.
Yeah.
And nowhere in the comic, I don't think.
No, I don't remember reading it.
No.
That's something I found funny as well. Linger played Micah in it.
Yeah.
Did you see that she had a conversation with Brandon Lee? And he said,
that he was half Chinese.
Yeah, and she was just like, okay. And then
he explained to his dad's Bruce Lee. Yeah, and she's like, I've never heard of it.
I don't know who Bruce Lee is. And then she talked about him with some friends of her. And she was like, oh, Bruce Lee's
he's Chinese though.
Yeah, knew him by the in China.
Which I never made a note of that name.
No, I did mention music. So I will mention that was one of my favourite components of the work on it, Graham Revel. He does Daredevil, which is one of my favourite movie scores of all time. He does the movie score for Sin City as well, which, again, another one of my favourite comic books. So he does like two of my favourite comic books of all time. And Daredevil is one of my favourite comic books.
And that movie's inspired by The Crow.
Yeah.
Because, not just in like some of its cinematography, but, I mean, he does a great big fire DD.
Yeah.
In this film, which is only in the film, because it's not in the comic, he does a crow shape on fire, doesn't he? Like a symbol of the crow, which went on to inspire the great big Z on fire in Mask of Zorro from 98.
Yeah.
You get the one we just mentioned from 2003's Daredevil movie. Then the '04 Punisher movie with Thomas Jane. He does a fiery skull, I think, in a car park.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta in 2005. You get a big fiery V. And The Dark Knight Rises from 2012. You get a big fiery bat logo.
All right. And Goya, obviously.
Goya is only for The Dark Knight there, I think.
Yeah. Well, he's a fan of the...
He's clearly a fan of The Crow.
He does the next one, the second one, City of Angels.
Which we'll be discussing next week.
Yeah. But, Graham Revel does a lot of good music. The score on this one's beautiful as well. He does the Riddick movies and Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
So he's got quite a few films that, like, well-known films. Well, I don't really know why he's not as recognised, because I do think his scores are phenomenal.
Similar with Proyas, though, as the director of this, because he did this. He did Dark City, which I think is 99 or 2000.
98.
Was it 98?
Yeah.
Right. And that's a great stylised film, and that's got its fans.
Yeah.
There's iRobot from 03?
04. 2004.
And then I think he did Knowing.
Yeah, he did Knowing.
Which isn't particularly great. I was quite enjoying it, and then it ended. The conclusion isn't particularly great, and I couldn't tell you what he's done since then.
I can't remember. I did look him up, and they're the only 3 films I noticed.
But he's clearly a great director and has a style.
Yeah.
Or knows how to bring a style anyway, because none of his films feel the same.
No.
He's not someone you feel like, this is a Proyas movie, I don't think.
No. I'd probably say Dark City and this, but they're closer together as well, and I think that's something that he knows.
Yeah. I mentioned earlier about Christian Slater and River Phoenix turning this role down for Eric Draven.
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz also turned down the role of Shelley because she didn't like the script.
Right.
This, I think, would have been the same year as The Mask.
Yeah.
Which she took on. Yeah. She plays Tina. I found that quite interesting. And you mentioned Iggy Pop about the comic, and he was supposed to play Fun Boy in this. He was down.
Yeah.
But he had to quit due to scheduling conflicts. And so he does actually play a character in the second movie we'll be discussing next week as well.
Yeah.
And strangely, it's the actor that played Fun Boy, Michael Massey.
Yeah.
He's the person that sadly shot Brandon Lee.
Yeah.
And he quit acting from that for about a year. He had a small role in Seven, and he did get into acting again, but in an interview in 2009, he said that he still has terrible nightmares about it.
Yeah.
And the strangest thing about the whole incident I found is that was a last-minute script change. He was never supposed to fire a shot at Brandon Lee at all.
No.
It was a last-minute script change. And it's also my understanding that there was a lot of cocaine use on set for this film.
Yeah?
Yeah, one of the producers has said, I can't remember what he said about it, and there's a quote from Brandon Lee somewhere when on set he hears somebody sneeze and goes like, oh, that's somebody's $50 just wasted. Oh, also, you said Tony Todd as Grange is in this.
Yeah.
That's a character that's not in the comic at all.
No.
And in one of the little interviews we watched, he's like, oh, I found this character quite hard to get into. I decided he's like a corporate assassin. He's been in Vietnam. And I couldn't find the character until I found this piece of, like, and it's like a little ring
Yeah.
for a little finger, like almost like an armoured joint.
Yeah.
I forgot what they called over his little finger. And he's like, but when I found this, I found my character.
Yeah.
And it felt like a comic book.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, that's really weird for somebody whose character isn't even in the comic book.
No.
But he's an odd character in the film.
Yeah.
Also, strangely, it's called The Crow, and there's not one crow in it.
No. They're all ravens.
Yes. And one of the ravens they used for this film is called Magic. And that bird plays the crow for parts in the sequels for the other crows.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's cool. I like that.
Yeah. Need one actor to return.
Yeah. And I don't know if you saw this, but the nightclub set that Top Dollar has, it was a cement factory
Yeah.
in Castle Haynes in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And what I liked about that is it was also Shredder's hideout in the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie,
Yeah.
which I absolutely love because that is a great comic book movie. It really is. In fact, we've got a cinema screen of that coming up somewhere later this year that we're hoping to attend. Well, we should be attending. We've got tickets for it.
Yeah.
And the Turtles are having their 40th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to do an episode on the original Turtles trilogy.
Nice.
Maybe do some other Turtles things as well around that time, maybe. But definitely the trilogy for the 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
In fact, they have a new show starting. In fact, it'll have been out a day
Yeah.
by the time this is released.
August 9th.
Yeah. We might put an episode out for that when we finish it. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what time is like, I guess.
Yeah.
So if not, we will maybe touch on it on an episode when we've finished instead of giving it an episode.
There's another connection to Turtles.
Is it an actor?
No.
Oh,
It's one of the writers. John Shirley was a writer on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 2012 animated series.
oh right, okay.
which
Wow, I
helps
didn't
it.
expect that.
No, I didn't either, but he wrote a few episodes of the Spawn animated series.
From HBO.
Yeah, and he wrote an episode about and beyond.
Oh, what a beast.
They're the only things I noted for him because I was just like, oh, that's amazing.
Are you sure he likes being called Shirley, though?
It's his second name.
Okay, just check.
And not to be confused with any character from The Crow.
There is no Shirley in The Crow, Thomas. Who are you confusing?
David J. Shaw, he did the story for Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning.
Is that the one with Matt Bomer?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's a good one.
I quite like it, yeah.
And the remake's okay.
The one before it, yeah. They're the two that I like after the original. I'm not keen on any of the others.
You liked Leatherface. The
Yeah.
one simply called
I
Leatherface
did not.
with Finn Jones.
It had Finn Jones and Stephen Dorff.
And you quite
And
liked the
Stephen
new
Dorff.
one they did on Netflix the other year.
God, no, that was awful. Stop talking about that.
I think it's a better franchise than Halloween.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're not here to discuss that.
No, we're not here to
Stop
discuss
changing
that.
the subject on other
not.
things to us.
I'm not. I got us back to this from Turtles.
You took us back to Turtles.
I went on about the writers.
John Polito's in this
Yeah.
as Gideon.
Yeah.
He's a cool character. Well, he's a cool actor anyway, I
Yeah.
think. Well, I can't really name much of what he's in. Did you see what he said?
Oh.
Brandon Lee, when filming the scene where he breaks into the pawn shop, actually cut his arm on the sugar glass, and that's
Yeah.
quite a rare accident to happen.
Yeah.
And Polito said that he would probably die.
Making this movie.
He weren't making this movie.
Oh.
It was just, you'll probably die on set.
Right.
But I don't think it was as serious as people make it seem. I think it's just basically a way of him saying, you're a bit accident prone, aren't you?
Yeah.
But I don't know, I won't know. Another thing I have for this is Skank is not a character name in the comic,
No.
but it is a character name in a 1986 film called The Wraith with Charlie Sheen, which is somebody else that comes back from the dead for revenge.
Oh.
And there's a villain in that called Skank.
See, I'll have to watch that.
And that seems to me like a very odd piece of referencing. And also in the comic, there's a cat that's quite important in a way. You could say it's similar to John Wick's dog.
Gabriel.
Yeah. And Gabriel does feature in the movie twice, maybe 3 times.
Yeah.
But it's not a particularly big part. It's just to, I feel like it's more proving they've read the comic and they're giving him a cat because he had a cat in the comic.
Yeah.
And that cat is played by a cat called Mykos. Did you see this?
No.
That cat is James Abar's cat.
Right.
And James Abar also has a cameo in this. After the pawn shop is up in flames, he can be seen stealing a television.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. I like it when the creators get a little cameo in their things.
Yeah.
I don't know why, it just feels like a nice honour. And he also, I don't know if you saw, but did you see what he did with the profits he made from this movie?
Oh, I did see, but I don't remember.
He bought his mum a car,
Yeah.
and he bought himself a surround sound system,
Yeah.
and donated the rest to charities.
Yeah.
And he said he didn't want to talk about that for years because he says you don't really do it for anything. But it came out in an interview at a Comic-Con apparently in, I think, 2004 or 5. I'm not sure. I didn't make a note of when he said it.
Years later.
But yeah, a good decade or so.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite fascinating because I think he said it was like blood money
Yeah.
due to Brendan Lee dying because it sounds like he became friends with Brendan Lee on set,
Yeah.
which, I don't know, they might not have been friends. They could have just been acquaintances, but he clearly felt they were friends anyway, so who knows. And did you mention his makeup at all?
No.
Do you know about the makeup thing?
Yeah.
What do you know about the makeup?
I know that you weren't happy with how they applied it, so he applied it on a night and slept in it, and then it looked warm.
But they apparently had a rubber mask.
Oh, yeah.
For like stenciling, for continuity's sake.
Yeah.
But not just, he did his own makeup on a night and slept in it, so it was smudged for the next filming, so it had the right aesthetic, I guess. It was inspired by Robert Smith from The Cure,
right,
in the music video Lullaby,
right,
which I had a look, and it is a little similar, but the lips are red, I think. Which reminds me to bring up something else. In the comic, he said he's painted his face the colours of happiness.
Yeah.
And I can believe the face is white like a clown's.
Yeah.
But I feel that in black and white, you don't know, that the eye makeup and the mouth makeup are maybe not black. And I think there was maybe some colour there. I could be wrong. It could also be said in irony, I guess.
Yeah.
Which would work as well. You could read it like that. But I just wondered if it was supposed to be in colour and why they didn't choose to do colour in the film, but then also the films tried to be monochromatic and stick to as black and white as they can get, so black and white makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, it's a great film. It looks great. There's some weird choices made. One weird choice I find, I think it seemed weird anyway. They try and make it seem a little more religious by going into the he's actually dead and come back. But then they have an end fight at a church. Him and Michael Wincott's character, Top Dollar. Their showdown is at a church, and that feels like it's in reference to Batman 89.
Yeah.
Which I find particularly weird because Batman 89 was in reference to Metropolis, the old silent film, and I can't remember the director of that. But I just found it odd that they're referencing something that was a reference, but it doesn't feel like they're referencing Metropolis at all. Definitely feels like it's in homage or reference to Batman 89.
Yeah.
So it's like a reference twice removed, and I found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
And I just had to say that because I love Batman 89.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And that's all I have for this film. Do you have any other thoughts? I mean, it's a beautiful looking movie. It's got heart. I love the style. I enjoy the cast.
Yeah.
But who can hate David Patrick Kelly in anything? Same with Tony Todd. He's a very, there's something about him. No matter how bad the characters they play are, you can't help but love them as actors. And I find that quite interesting in general for them sort of actors.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Ernie Hudson in this as well, playing a cop.
Yeah.
It feels quite natural to him almost.
Yeah, he's great.
Compared to his fireman in Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Where he's very underutilised.
Yeah. I love this film up until the point where it gets to him going for Top Dollar.
Yeah.
And then it kind of loses it.
As in you go like, I should have watched the 96 TV series with Mark Dacascos.
98 TVs.
The 98?
Yeah.
Right.
That's where it really strays from the comic book a bit. I understand why it does when it hits this point where it becomes like more of a superhero film than a revenge film.
Mm-hmm.
Like
almost like, oh, this is based on a comic book. We have to do something comic booky.
Yeah. And the villain, like I said, he's into like magic-y stuff.
Or he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because there's the part where it's like, oh, his bird gives him his power or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, where are you getting that from?
Yeah. Thing with this film, when they took Skull Cowboy out, now basically every time Eric would stray away from what he was supposed to be doing, which is getting revenge for Shelley,
Yeah.
Skull Cowboy had warned him that he'll lose his power by doing that.
Oh, right.
When he heals Starla, Sarah's mum, he heals her with the drug addiction and all that. And Skull Cowboy says that's not why you're here.
All right.
You're here to get revenge for Shelley, that he strays away from your mission. So he loses part of his power at this point, and he's able to get wounded. And
Yeah.
you can see that later when he comes back again, because he's got black tape around.
Yeah.
He's like patched up these wounds that he got from there. And then he goes after Top Dollar because Top Dollar took Sarah.
Yeah.
Takes to church, and Skull Cowboy, this isn't your mission to save the girl. Your mission to get revenge. Top Dollar isn't part of this. And that's why Eric is able to take damage and and it's only when Top Dollar mentions that he organised the whole thing of Shelley and Eric being murdered, that whole scenario set up. That's when Eric is able to get his powers back and heal up and win.
Yeah.
And kill Top Dollar.
That is much more interesting than what happens. I think, anyway.
It seems a bit weird because that means he has to investigate all that, and it's as though Skull Cowboy like, oh, I know what your mission is. I had no idea Top Dollar was part of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Even though they've been working for Top Dollar the whole time.
Yeah. I don't know.
But for the most part, that sounds quite interesting with the whole power thing.
Yeah.
More than what does play out.
Yeah.
But you brought it up when we watched it. Its influence on Daredevil, not just with the DD. And I guess on Mark Steven Johnson. Is it Mark Steven Johnson, director, writer of Daredevil?
Yeah.
Who did Ghost Rider?
Yeah.
Do you want to go into just a little bit of overlap with them two films in this one? Because I think it's quite interesting.
I can't remember what exactly. But,
well,
I know Daredevil is growing Revel on it.
Yeah.
There's a line for how you put the fear into the man. Line similar to that in The Crow, isn't there? About
when he's on about the Crow itself to depower him or something.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what the line is.
I can't think now, but it's pretty much take away the Crow.
Yeah.
It's the power.
And there's also the first guy he kills with the knives.
Yeah.
He says, I never miss. And it's
Yeah.
very much like Bullseye in Daredevil.
Yeah. And then, I mentioned the Ghost Rider by Max Steven Johnson as well. And in that, there's the caretaker character who kind of looks like the Skull Cowboy.
Yeah.
And helps him on his mission.
Yeah.
And
But
then leaves.
that caretaker character, I think, is in Ghost Rider lore before.
He doesn't have the Ghost Rider look, though. It's just the Western all-white ghost. Right.
And then he made him more like a cowboy.
Yeah, he made him.
Right.
Which looks like Skull Cowboy.
Yeah.
And Skull Cowboy, if I'm right, there's a theory about him being like a previous Crow.
Oh, right, okay.
So he's been there on a revenge path and chosen not to get revenge.
Now, see, for me, I saw him more like Virgil from Dante's Inferno.
Yeah.
And that sort of lore, where he's the guy that guides you through the afterlife.
Yeah.
That's how I mostly saw him.
Yeah, how I saw it as well.
But in the comic, I think it's at the beginning when Eric's on the train, it says conductor.
Yeah.
As if he's just like, this way.
Yeah.
Tickets, please.
Yeah.
Which I think is also like Virgil, because I think you had to give him a coin to go across on the boat, or am I mixing that with somebody else? On the River of Styx, you had to pay with a coin.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Sorry.
No, my law's not too great, and there's too many laws about different things in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Can we all just condense it down into one thing?
We all become the Crow.
Yeah, that's the secret. We're all the Crow. We're all the crows who make along the way. No?
Maybe.
And then we shout murder. Like a murder of crows.
I'd love a murder of crows. Just like comic pockets, all the crows. They all band together.
It's like we're the murder.
Yeah. They're never all banded together as far as I'm aware.
No. It's too superhero, though, I think, for what the Crow is.
Yeah.
Do you want to segue into the comics in this awkward segue I just created?
Sure.
I'm like the guy that created the Segway that rode off a cliff.
No idea what you're on about now.
I think the man that created the Segway drove off a cliff on a Segway.
I really hope that's true.
If not, I'm sure somebody's told me that, and I've never looked it up because it sounds too funny and I have to believe it. There's quite a few Crow comics out there, but we did a bit of extracurricular from this one, I guess.
Victims, aren't we all?
Because we read James Abar's The Crow Dead Time, which he only does the story on, and John Wagner did the script for it, and Alexander, I think he's known as Alex now, though, Malev did the art.
Yeah.
John Wagner did The History of Violence and famously created Judge Dredd as well.
Yeah.
And he does a new comic that I'm looking forward to reading. I think it's called The Bogeyman. I say new, it's relatively new. Yeah, it's called The Bogeyman, and that's Wagner, and it's also Alan Grant, not of Jurassic Park fame. Alan Grant of comic book fame. He's a British writer, also from 2000 AD at one point, and wrote a few Batman stories. I think he's the creator of Victor Zsasz.
Yeah, believe so.
But yeah, he did The Boogeyman, which looks like a noir. I haven't read it yet. It's on my shelf to read.
Yeah.
Looks pretty great, though. So there's that one, which is credited as Volume 2,
Yeah, they're
The class in the original as Volume 1.
Yeah.
And then Volume 3 was Flesh and Blood, and that was written by James Vance, and again art by Alexander Maleev.
Yeah.
I don't know what comes after them. They're what we've read.
Yeah.
From that run, because I think this is the first run after the film came out. There hadn't been any Crow comics since the originals until these.
Yeah.
If I'm right.
Yeah, and they got James LeVar back to do.
Yeah, he did the story.
Dead Time. Yeah.
Yeah, for Dead Time.
Flesh and Blood's actually my favourite one that isn't the original.
Yeah. Dead Time, I didn't particularly enjoy it. I found Alexander Maleev's art a little confusing for myself.
For you, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
because
why.
I
got along with it absolutely fine, and I loved it.
There's some great images in there,
Yeah.
but for me, I don't think the images are lining up with what it's telling us is happening.
And it did for me. I don't know.
It says something about somebody getting murdered. You look at the image and it don't like anybody's dying. I'm just saying.
I don't think you know how to read.
I'm
Or look at
dyslexic.
pictures.
Why are you bullying me all the time about my dyslexia, Thomas? I think the story also ruins what I like about the original, and that's the ambiguity.
Yeah.
Because this seems to be, he's come back 100 years later or 300 years later, I can't remember now, to get revenge on people that killed him years ago.
Yeah.
Well, hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
So obviously they've been resurrected and they're taking the same, like they're basically wasting their second chance.
Yeah.
And I didn't particularly enjoy it.
No.
It's quite interesting, but as a Crow comic, I think it should have been something else instead, instead of a Crow comic.
I quite liked it.
Like I said, it ruins the ambiguity for me.
I know what you mean. These are more like sequels to the movie, to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So I'm not overly keen on it, mainly because I just didn't find Joshua the Crow of that book
Yeah.
as interesting.
The other thing is, if you're going to like lean into the more supernatural side, you could do something a little more interesting and make Skull Cowboy like the overarching character, narrator or something. So he's always appearing for these crows as well.
Yeah, Skull Cowboy don't carry to anything. I read after the first. I've only read these two.
He was cut out the movie, and I think he appears in an episode of the TV series.
Yeah, you're like completely. He's not even a cowboy.
No, it's so upsetting. If I'm right, he had a pumpkin head.
No, he's just
no skull.
No, he's like more voodoo, witch doctor-y type guy.
And then Flesh and Blood by James Vance is okay.
Yeah.
It's the first female Crow,
Yeah.
I guess, to ever appear in comic.
In comic, yeah.
Does she beat the series one? Because one appears in the TV series.
One in the series beats her by just a fraction.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bit good.
Yeah.
Are you sure about that? The UK release date you've seen for it?
No, it's the official.
Right. Oh, that's a bit good.
I looked it up. I was looking up the character and it said she's the first female Crow. I was like, yes. And it was like in comic books, in the series.
Right.
I can't remember her name.
But
Flesh and Blood was my 11.
Yeah, that's quite a decent story, and she's quite an interesting Crow.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't seem to just want revenge. She seems to really want to make sure they suffer.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool about her.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're essentially all the same story. It's all John Wick. Every Crow is just John Wick. And what's great about that is the stand-in for Brandon Lee on the Crow was Chad Stahelski, who is one of the guys who created John Wick.
Yeah.
But that's just by coincidence. They are all very much John Wick. It's like, you've lost everything you've ever loved, and now you're getting a chance for revenge, and you can make it as bloodthirsty and as aggro and gun-fu as you wish.
Something I liked about her Crow is, though, that her as a character is she seemed to have more conversation with the Crow itself, and it asks her.
Oh, it wants to. She was going to keep the baby.
Yeah, because in that she's
she's pregnant. When she dies.
I wouldn't say it's spoiler, but yeah, the Crow asks her if she was going to keep it. You do not learn her answer.
No,
and I love that.
Yeah,
because I feel like she could be getting revenge for other people that died when she did, or just herself.
Yeah.
And I just really love that. She just seemed like a more interesting character out of the ones I've read. Well, other than Eric himself. Eric is the Crow. These are just crows to me.
Yeah. You're just a crow. Eric was the Crow.
Yeah.
Thomas, Eric was a raven. In the movie, he even quotes The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
They should really rename that movie.
Yeah. And then another comic we read is much, much later. I think this is one of the more recent ones because it's 2018, I think.
Yeah, 2018.
And this is under the print of IDW now.
Yeah.
And that's called Memento Mori, which I thought was quite interesting. And I think it looks like The Crow has now become a colour comic book when IDW took over.
Yeah, I have no idea when that happened.
And that was by, do you have this written down?
Roberta Riscioni. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Recchioni, I would say.
He's the writer.
Yeah.
Artists were the Deladera.
Colours by Giovanni Nero.
Yeah, and then there were covers by David Furno, and I really love his alternate covers. They were more detailed and artwork and so much nicer on those.
It opens with some establishing shots of the city.
Yeah, and they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, also,
Rain, everything.
it's Rome.
Yeah,
Which is pretty cool.
yeah.
And there's some really great shots. And then the actual character work themselves, I think, is a little... Some are pretty good and would pass, but some I think are a little too manga for my tastes.
Yeah.
But the colour work is gorgeous.
Yeah.
I found this to be a little grating because it feels like for the first, I think it's a 3-issue book. 4-issue book. And the first issue, it just felt like, quote the Bible, quote the Bible, quote the Bible, quote the Bible.
And the second issue was, he's a 16-year-old.
Yeah. And then you kind of get his story.
Yeah, and he links it to like being like a TV series. So
Yeah.
like the happy episode of my life. And you go through his life and you're like, okay.
Yeah. And
there's some interesting stuff.
But in episode 3, it's actually him going for the revenge. Like him actually getting the people.
Yeah. In
Issue 3, sorry. There's a 2-page spread in there. Well, I don't think it's a 2-page spread, but just 2 pages of an action sequence, basically. That's very much from Old Boy.
Yeah.
The famous corridor scene from Old Boy.
Yeah.
That's a film we should maybe cover because that's part of a trilogy to the director.
Right.
I think it's a revenge trilogy, so they might be worth covering, actually.
Yeah.
And I've got the Old Boy comic book. Well, manga.
Yeah.
And then issue 4 is where it takes a bit more of a turn because he's only 16 and him and I think 29 other people have died, and one is this girl that he loved that introduced him to Christianity.
Yeah.
And then you learn that, do I say?
No.
No, I won't say. But I think it takes a good twist towards the end.
Really. Her name was Sarah.
Yes. Yeah, I thought that was a little funny. I thought it was reference to the movie. But I think that's maybe my favourite out of the 3 that we've read that isn't the original Crow.
Really?
It's a little basic at the beginning, but I think there's a little more character work there, and I think the end really makes it worth reading. As the other 2 were a little samey. They're a little like, you know what the Crow is? Let's just do more of that. I'd like some variation. Even every John Wick film isn't the same. There's some variation. He kills people with pencils. He kills people with cars. He kills people with shotguns. You get a top-down shot.
I don't think Flesh and Blood was exactly like the other, though. I think.
Well, you think they tried to make her Crow a little different?
Yeah, she actually went.
I agree to that, but I mean, the actual premise and how it pans out is still just a Crow comic book. She's still like, I'm resurrected and I'm going to kill everyone that's wrong with me.
Well, the other thing, she was like, like you said, I'm going to make them suffer as much as I can.
Yeah.
So she had like a whole little.
She wants to play with him a little bit more, I guess.
Because the Crow was like, you can kill him now.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm going to wait. And the Crow's like, this is interesting. I've never had someone like you.
Yeah, that's certainly a great character change, but I don't think it's enough for the story itself. I would like the story. That's the other thing. You don't feel like you're getting as much time with the character as you do in the original Crow.
No.
And I said I've only read the special edition of the original Crow, so in the regular version you might not be either.
No.
But yeah, I like that because the original Crow by James O'Barr, you actually feel the emotion in his character and you're spending time with him a little more, I feel. As with these, it feels so rushed to get to an end.
Yeah. Them ones were only...
They remind me of the pilot to the Crow series.
Oh, no, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, because the Crow series, basically, for those that haven't seen it, the pilot condenses all the movie, whole hour 45, into just a 40-minute episode, but you don't get the end. He doesn't go for the top guy. And that's what these feel like, but you also get him take the top guy at the end as well. So it's like they've just condensed a full story into a short time frame.
I think you're one issue more.
Yeah, exactly. It would help.
First two, the Flesh and Blood and Dead Time, I think we're one issue more. Yeah, I think that'd be great, but...
And Memento Mori needs a little less of the main guy. Too much of him, and he's not interesting. I think they thought, if it's a 16-year-old boy, you'll feel really sorry for him.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, come on. I know. You're dead. Come on, get to the Crow.
Yeah.
Go get your revenge, Crow.
Yeah.
Because he's not the Crow either. Eric is the Crow.
No, he's a Draven.
Only in the movie.
Yeah, but he's Draven. And obviously it's not Eric at all in the other movies we'll be discussing next week.
No.
Which I'm quite looking forward to doing, because I have seen them.
Yeah.
And not to sound down on them, but they're of varying quality.
I don't think they're as bad as people say either.
One's got Eric Morbius in it. It's Morbin time.
It's Morbius o'clock. It's Eric Mobius, isn't it?
I don't know. I always call him Eric Morbius.
Mobius. I'm certain he's Mobius.
He's the guy that should have been Nemesis anyway in Resident Evil.
He's the guy that they turned into Nemesis in Resident Evil Apocalypse, and you always think they should have had him be Nemesis because of
He was willing to work out for it.
Yeah, he said, I'm going to bulk up and get in shape to play Nemesis.
I would have seen that movie. I mean, I do like the Nemesis design in that film, to be honest.
Yeah, but you'd rather see Eric Mobius as just a...
He's a very good actor. He's great in Ugly Betty.
Have you seen Ugly Betty?
No. I just know he's in it. Because I remember it was getting advertised a lot, and I'd seen him in Resident Evil. I was like, that's that guy from Resident Evil. He's now in Ugly Betty.
Yeah. I don't really know anything else he's in.
No, Meat Cleaver. Me neither. I shouldn't say Meat Cleaver on here. No one's going to get it.
No.
Do we leave it in as a deep cut for Bo Burnham fans?
We can now. You've mentioned Bo Burnham.
And is that everything you want to say on these?
I'm not reading Memento Mori again.
Wow. No one's asking you to either, though. That's a weird thing.
I thought we might do another Crow episode. I have to read it.
Anyway, so that's the end of the show. Thank you for joining us this week. And if you haven't already, click like and subscribe. A glowing review would also be appreciated. We are cynic_critique on X and Instagram. Links to those and more can be found in our show's description. And remember to join us next week as we discuss sequels to The Crow with 1996's The Crow City of Angels, 2000's The Crow Salvation, and 2005's The Crow Wicked Prayer. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Winged it.
I thought that Eric was the last. I never imagined there would be another.